Now, this is Business Breakfast. All right, we'll turn our attention to look at the Nigeria's rice consumption, assessing local production and supply chain now. The Federal Operations Unit of Nigeria Customs Service has warned that Nigerians should be aware of the negative economic impact of importing foreign rice into the country, as some of the imported commodity are unhealthy for human consumption. The service says it intercepted about 7,259 bags of 50 kgs foreign parboiled rice, which is equivalent to 12 trucks within the month of April. Laboratory tests analysis of some of the previously seized foreign parboiled rice by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control indicated that some content of lead, a soft, heavy, toxic metallic element in the textured rice, was found, making it unfit for human consumption. So we ask, what is the implication of this as we take a look at Nigeria's consumption capacity and production as well? Let's get talking right away. Abibat Sanusi is the CEO, Michelle Martin, Nigeria Limited. She joins us via the telephone now. Thank you, Ma. We appreciate you for finding time to join us on Business Breakfast.
All right, no problem.
I needed to start. Let's do an assessment of the local production of rice in Nigeria and our consumption rate as well. What do you make of it? Is it sustainable? Is it okay?
Local production of rice in Nigeria. To start with, the amount that we consume in Nigeria is about 6.7 billion tons of rice, because at least 1 out of every 5 Nigerians consume rice every day. 1 out of 5 Nigerians consume rice every day. So this is about 6.7 million tons that we consume. And locally, we produce about 3 million tons. So that means there's a deficit of over 3.7 million tons. So, and yes, of course, and the local rice has defects because low quality compared to the ones from India, China, Vietnam, and all of that. And this is caused by so many factors. The government is trying on their part, but I don't think it's enough, because it is not really getting to the root. Those policies is not getting to the core farmers. I'm also a rice farmer, but we know what we are saying and we know what we are experiencing in the rice sector.
Let me also quickly ask you, what do you suppose is the reason behind the incessant smuggling of some of these parboiled rice into the country? Is it because of the deficit that you described earlier? What do you suppose is the issue here?
The deficit, then we are yet to meet up the demand. The local production is yet to meet up the demand of the rice consumption in the country. So there will always be demand for it, because the market keeps on increasing by 8% almost every two months. So, and many people prefer, they say, don't let me say many, they say they prefer the foreign rice to Nigeria, because that is basically because of the processing line. Processing, and that is it. And the unfortunate part is that many of these people, let me say from neighboring countries, through Badagry borders, they come into Nigeria to buy the paddy from farmers. They take it back to their country to process and bring it back to us.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. Now, I need to clarify, just to be clear about it, that they come into Nigeria,
Yes.
buy the paddy rice
from farmers,
and
yes,
then take it back, refine, all right, produce,
exactly,
and then bring
it
back
to us. Yeah, this is what I have experienced for about 3, 4, 5 times. So I had to stop selling and stop some other farmers from selling to them. That we need to work on our processing mills, machines, mechanized, full production. Because many farmers practice subsistence farming because they cannot afford to go on a very large scale farming. And those that are going on a large scale farming, they find it very difficult to access some machines, equipment. There was a time last year that we needed an harvester to harvest about 75 hectares of rice farm. We had to start contacting people from the north, from this, from that. We wrote the government, if you can buy for certain cluster of farmers. So, okay, come, let's do this, let's do that. But there was no, so many rice paddies were wasting on the farm. So, yes, these are the major concerns.
I know the government came up with the paddy rice initiative just about a few months ago. I mean, what was the purpose for really?
Even if there are paddies, the major thing here is not the paddy, it's the processing. At least if every farmer know that, I will confident that, okay, when I get my paddy, I have somewhere clean and serene enough for me to process the paddy, then it's fine. Because processing is a whole lot. Any rice that has stones is poor processing. If it smells, it's poor processing. So, but when farmers sees that, okay, paddy and all of that, okay, there is no way I can process it. They prefer to sell it like paddy. In fact, there are some state governments that practice art growers. It is not sustainable. So, what I feel should happen in that part is if government can have industrial hubs or rice processes. There are some in the country, but it's not enough compared to what we consume. For example, in China, if you want to process, let me just say pure water, for example, all you just need to do is to get your packaging material, go into their main water processing plant. The whole thing is there, just the water is running, they're taking care of it, so just pack it and sell. So if you can have some industrial hubs for processing rice like that, the paddy should not be an issue. For the paddy,
I'm sure some policymakers are listening to you now. Perhaps they'll be able to buy into some of these ideas you're sharing.
I really hope so, because farmers are really going through a lot.
I mean, what's the implication? Because recently, the Customs Service came up to warn Nigerians about some adulterated rice commodity in the market, parboiled rice, which they said they found element of toxic and metal in it. I mean, I don't know. How do you think we can address this? Do you think we'll stop this? Because perhaps, of course, obviously, that's a product of smuggling of these commodities into the country.
I feel to stop that, number one, we have to solve the issue of local production. Then for the fact that the border is open does not mean they can legally bring in rice. I think rice is still part of CBN's contraband and some other products. So I will indulge our custom services to be more vigilant and encourage Nigerians to patronize locally produced rice. At least if they patronize, even if it is really not really processed rice, it will encourage local farmers and other business investors to want to come to the industry to create different processing centers in the country.
Yes. You are a farmer, a practitioner. You produce rice and you have some product in the market at the moment. How is the market receiving that production? And what are some of the challenges that you face?
The market is receiving it. In fact, we cannot even meet up the market demand for rice, because right now we only produce on about 10 hectares of rice, and by the time we process already, even before it leaves the mills, people have already booked for them. And by the time they come back, we'll have to tell them to wait for another planting season, which is in the next 4 or 5 months, because we could not access some mechanized machines, even to borrow, to pay, rent and pay. There are some machines that we cannot have access to. The processing center, to also electricity and so many other factors. There are some machines that can produce about 20 tons of rice that we can see. But all of these things, all of these processes, if farmers can have access to it, and all those government policies, if it's really getting to the farmers, there is no way we will not have results. But many of it just stops at the top or the middle. It doesn't get to the farmers.
There's a program by CBN called Anchor Borrowers Program. I mean,
Yes.
yes. Have you accessed that program before? Have you been a beneficiary of that program? Because I had assumed that it cut across every farmer, if whether in the grain or you are in the vegetable, perhaps it cut across all sectors. Give me your experience. Have you been able to access that? And how does it, I mean, what does it take to access that?
The CBN Anchor Borrowers is not. It's a very good program, and it's not really helpful in totality to farmers, because if you said you want to help farmers, they are given chemicals, they're given probably the rice paddy. There are a whole lot of other things the farmer needs. So at the end of the day, the paddy, the chemical, or probably the pumping machine that is given to the farmers does not really have use.
Let me ask you, do you have an association? Do you have a platform where you can engage some of these policymakers? And if not, why are you not considering having a platform or a kind of forum that your association can engage some the policymakers, perhaps the CBN as well?
There is an association called RIFAN, that is Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria. I am not part of the ESCOs, but I believe they are making a lot efforts. I think that was what brought about the Anchor Borrower in the first place in past years, when they have been saying, okay, how can you help farmers? But yet, I think government needs to do more in part of implementation. When they engage them, okay, this is what they need to do. Government will respond. Let's do this, let's do that. So getting to the implementation stage, that is when the issue comes up. Because farmers say, okay, we want this, we want that. By the time they supply those things, they might not really be what those farmers need. And it might be that, okay, these are the things that we put in for. Why are you giving us this? At least I have experienced one or two occasions whereby, okay, we put in for, these are what these farmers want in this certain cluster. And by the time they brought it, like harvester, because there is a small harvester that they use on farm, we don't want this, we already have this, this is what we want. So by the end of the day, when they went for the meetings upon meeting, they come back, they tell you, okay, this is what we are giving you. Is this what government, is this what we propose? So there are still a whole lot of issues at the grassroots level that farmers need. And there are a whole about 700 hectares. When we do our farm, there are about 700 hectares uncultivated, and they are very, very good for rice. So you can have a processing mill there, and other places, even in Lagos.
Now, let's look at how you talk about the fact that you've been producing and all of that. Does the smuggled rice pose a challenge to your product that is being produced locally?
Yes, when the smuggled rice market is a very big market. In fact, the more the merrier. As long as you are producing a high quality rice, there is no way you will not sell. So as they are smuggling, it's not helping the local rice production, because the quality of the local rice production is not as good as the one that is smuggled in, because they are producing on a very large scale, a very good and standard machines that can possibly not be found in Nigeria. So that is where the competition comes in. If you can have access to those machines here in Nigeria, okay, I have somewhere I can go to refine, process my machine, ferment, and all of that, then the more the merrier, you will sell.
Interesting. I mean, the custom talked about the father intercepted about 7 or 12 trucks of imported poisonous rice just some few weeks ago. How concerned are you about that, and how do you think one can differentiate? Is there something called a mechanism, a process where you can differentiate these poisonous rice from the good, or I mean, well-consumed rice that some of you produce in the market?
Well, it all depends on the content of the nature of the poison. There are some that will not be obvious, and there are some that might be. After all, there was a time that I think somebody was caught on our farm trying to come in through, because we have a farm at Badagry, through this, but they're running through the farm. I think the person got rice from that neighboring country in a 25-liter petrol gallon. Probably he went out with petrol gallon and coming in. So I think the custom were going after, and this happened about 3-4 months ago. So they were caught inside a very small car, I think about 4 or 5 25-liter keg. So now that rice was put inside a petrol gallon. So point it out, I'm not sure you might be able to really notice that, okay, this rice has been poisonous. So it depends, it all depends on the nature of the poison.
Interesting. Let's get back to some of the challenges you listed earlier, talking about how the government can create a kind of industrial hub that will help local producers like you, to scale up your production. I mean, let's also talk about loans and some of the platform, the Bank of Industry ideas, the export and exit importer bank is also there. These are some of the platforms that that have been created by the government to give access to local producers like you. Have you also considered some of these platforms as well?
Yes, those platforms are not enough. That is the point. When you're giving, I said it earlier on that, okay, you have access to loan to go to production for rice, for example. There are some equipment that are heavy. There is no bank that will give a local farmer about 13 million naira to purchase only a tractor. No. So it's still the same thing. They need to do enough, more than giving the loan. Even at the end of the day, they might not necessarily be giving out the loan to farmers anymore. When they have access, okay, in certain farming clusters, they need to highlight those places that rice can be grown in the country, which is countless. So they need, when they highlight all of this, they know that, okay, in certain cluster, let's have an industrial hub. Those that are into processing. It's a very long value chain. Those that are into production, because rice is a major staple food in Nigeria. So I think government should take it very serious, and it should be part of a state of emergency should be declared in that sector. So for production, these are people in the production line. What are the major equipments? Rice is a kind of crop that requires water heavily, that requires time to time management, and all of that. Okay, these are the machines they need, like harvester, like tractor. Anytime it need like fertilizer applicator and all of that. So anytime you need as a farmer, you can always go there to list and come back. So for those in the processing line, for those in the transportation sector, in fact, transportation sector, when they see you that, okay, you are carrying rice, in fact, they already know, they will tell you this is gold mine. They will have to overcharge you because you want them to help you move your rice from one place to another. So yes, so government needs to do more than giving those loans, because these machines are heavy. Right. They are heavy and they are very expensive.
Interesting. I do believe that perhaps one person or policymaker is actually listening to what you're saying. But let's look at how much do you think the country is losing? You talk about the fact in your opening speech earlier that the country still has about 3 million metric tons deficit from what he consumed, about 6.7 million metric tons of rice consumed in Nigeria.
Yes.
We still have about 3 million deficit. And how much do you think the country is losing by not filling in this gap?
That is what I'm saying. 3 million deficits of rice that we still have in the country. So that means that the government is still losing about 2.5 from our GDP from rice alone. Yes, because the market keeps on increasing every day. Every day, yes.
Okay. As we wrap up now, give us the size of the market and what you think is the outlook for the rice sector in Nigeria.
Yes, the size of the market is about 3.7 billion naira. Yes, and is expected to be increasing by 8.7% every month. So it's a very big market, and it doesn't seem to dwindle anytime soon, because that is it's a major staple food in the country. So one reason why I feel government need to pay critical attention to that sector.
Okay, I think we need to leave it there. Thank you so much, Abibat Sanusi, is the CEO, Michel Martin Nigeria Limited. Thank you for what you're doing. We'll appreciate your time on
All right,
Business
no
Breakfast.
problem. Thank you so much.